Goole Jamboard is an online collaborative whiteboard app, and it's a great tool for both in-person and remote learning. It supports online collaboration, real-time collaboration with students where you can work on the same document together, can brainstorm together, edit and annotate together. Students can also use Jamboard to work independently as well. It basically is providing you with a collaborative whiteboard space that everyone can have access to. Technically, a Jamboard is a piece of hardware by Google. It's kind of their version of a smartboard, but the free online app is what we're going to be using today, and one that you'll find is integrated into Google Meet as well. So there's several ways that you can start a Jamboard. First of all, you can just go to the URL jamboard.google.com. This will bring you to the site that loads all of the jams that you've already created, and there's also a plus sign where you can create a new jam. You can also create new jams in your Google Drive. If you click on the New button and you choose More, Jamboards are listed here as an app. So this can be created just like you would any other Google document. In addition, when you're in a Google Meet, from the settings, you can launch. When you click Whiteboard, it's essentially launching the Jamboard app. Now, when you go ahead and you're using Jamboard, let's say on the fly, one thing that you'll notice is I'm going to just say start a new Jamboard for this one. And it's going to open up a new window and open the Jamboard app for me. When you're doing this on the fly, your students will not have, they're only going to have view-only rights to begin with. This is very similar to all of the Google Docs sharing. So in order to share this super quickly with your class, you would just click on the share button. And then instead of saying they can view the link, I'm going to hit change and just change the viewer to be an editor. And now when I hit done, everybody who is in this Google Meet will have access to edit and add to the Jamboard. If you're creating your jams in advance, let's say from Google Drive, first of all of your Jamboards, regardless of where you create them, are automatically saved into a folder in Google Drive called Jamboards. So if I was to create a new Jamboard from Google Drive, you will need to click the share button, and you can, if you're setting it up in advance, you can either add the names of the students in the group that you want to have access to the Jamboard, or you can just go ahead and hit the change and just make everyone in Fayetteville Manlius who has access to this file would be able to edit it if you changed this to editor like we showed you previously. The other option that you can do with any Google, this can be done with any Google document, a Jamboard, it could be a Google slide presentation, but you can force users to make a copy of your file. What you do is you just have the file open and you're going to look up at the URL, and where it says viewer here, sometimes it might say editor. I'm just going to copy that and just say copy. And now when I copy this URL, I'm just going to do Control-C to copy it. I'm just going to paste this in another tab, just so you can see this. When students would click on this link, they are going to be forced to make their own copy of the jam. So that would be as if you wanted to sign it to an individual student. If students are given their own copy of the jam, this will no longer be a collaborative tool because only that student would have their own copy, and that's the only thing that they would see. That is a nice shortcut for how to create and force copies of Google files for students. Okay, let's get back into a Jamboard now and look at the tools that are available to us in Google Jamboard. So first of all, you can create endless numbers of pages here. So these are almost like slides. So if I'm moving from slide to slide, when I get to the end of my slideshow, when I hit create, it's going to just continue to create new frames here. You can also look at all of your frames by hitting the arrow underneath it. And this is going to allow you to move your frames around if you want to. You can navigate to different frames within your presentation. You can also click the 3 dots next to a frame, and you can either duplicate a frame or you can delete it. So if I wanted to delete this one because it was just an extra frame, I can just go ahead and quickly do that. You can also just, drag and drop them around into whichever order you want them to be. So if I'm looking at a particular frame, this is a great tool now for collaborative editing. If all of your students have edit access, they're going to have access to use all of these tools on the left-hand menu. The first thing they can do is write anywhere on the display. So if I hold my mouse down, I have an option of different types of pens. You can use a brush, a highlighter, there's a marker or a regular pen. You can also choose your pen color. So this is a way that students could maybe pick out pieces of maybe circle parts of speech or things like that. You can also erase any of the marks that you make on here by using the erase feature. You can clear an entire frame, and this will delete everything on the frame by using the menu up at the top. I can also add sticky notes to my frames. So this is a lot of times people use the sticky notes for brainstorming, but this, you can choose the color. And this essentially just becomes a sticky note on your screen that you can move around. It can also be made bigger or smaller. It can be rotated. You can also use on the tool, you can edit your sticky note. You can duplicate or delete it, or you can change the order of it. So if it ends up being behind something else, you can send it to the front or the back. You can file this menu item will be available for any single item that you have on your screen. So here's an image that I had. I'll have the same option from that 3-dot menu. I can duplicate the picture, I can delete it, or I can bring it to the front or back. This icon right here allows you to add images to your Jamboard, and you can do this by either uploading directly from your computer. If you know the URL of a picture, it will grab it. You can use your webcam to take a picture. I can also do a Google image search right in Jamboard. And the nice thing about this is it will only bring up in this search copyright-free images. So you don't have to worry about, if your students were searching and you were concerned about copyright, it would be a non-issue here. But if I want the picture in my Jam, I just select it and hit insert, and then it's added to my Jam. And I'm going to have those same menu options. I can also resize it. I can rotate it, and I can move it around the screen. Other items that you can add to your screen are different shapes. So, if I wanted to draw a perfect triangle, I can go ahead and do that. Again, you can move around and you'll have those same menus as well. So any shapes you can draw right on your screen. You can also use text boxes. So if I was to type a text box, of course, I'm going to get the same menus. I can resize. That will make your text bigger if you resize it. You can also highlight your text, and you can do things like change the text color, or you can change the font size. You can also have the option to change the alignment of your text from center or right or left justified. The other tool on this toolbar is called a laser pen. This is sort of like a disappearing ink pen, and it's really just designed to draw attention to something. But if you'll notice, the text just circles like a laser does, and then it will disappear. And then finally, you have your select item. Anything on the screen can be selected by using the arrow key. And then it gives you the options to move it around and to resize and rotate and do whatever you need to do with it. You also have the option here in Jamboard is to set backgrounds. And this can be very useful depending on what you teach. But let's say, for instance, you wanted to use some graph paper in this. You would just choose this. It will give you a background graph paper. So you can change the background. You can also add your own image as a background, or I could just have a lined page, or pretty much any way that you want this to look. A couple other just little things to note in Jamboard. First of all, although you don't see options for like copying and pasting items, you can use the keyboard shortcuts. So keyboard shortcuts like Control-C will copy an item, Control-V will paste. I can duplicate any item on my screen by choosing Control-D, and then I can edit and redo. And those buttons are options up here for editing and redoing. You also have the option to zoom anywhere. So let me just take a look at that. Let's say I wanted to copy this and make a copy of it. I can just highlight it, hit Control-C, just click off of it and hit Control-V, and it'll make a copy of it. If I highlighted it like this sticky note and just did Control-D, it just automatically does that. It duplicates it for you. So it's sort of, Control-D is even a shortcut for copying and pasting. All of your control keyboard functions like that will work in Jamboard. The other thing I wanted to point out is that there is not voice typing in Jamboard. So if you do have students who need to use voice to text, my recommendation is for them to use that tool maybe in Google Docs, and then they can just paste that into the Jamboard. The other thing that they could do is open up the Read and Write toolbar. And it does, the Read and Write toolbar is available for all of our students, but I'd have to start with a text box, and then I'm going to do my speaking. So I'm going to do talk and type. I'm going to say allow. And I do have to, I actually should have texted that before I did my text box. And so now it's actually typing whatever I'm saying into this text box. Sometimes there's a little delay before it shows up, but using Read and Write will work here if your students don't want to use the tools in Google Drive. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete. I'm going to turn that off now. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete this text box for a moment. Okay, other thing is that I showed you that. You do have this, there is available an app for an Android or an Apple device. So if you have a student who doesn't have a touch screen computer that they're using, maybe they're using their own device and it's not a touch screen, they can always install the app and use the touch screen features on their phone or on an iPod or iPad or any kind of tablet that they have as well. One other thing, I'm just going to close Read and Write here, is that you do have a 3-dot menu here. So one of the things that's kind of nice about this is, number one, I can rename my Jamboard at any time, but I can also download the entire Jam as a PDF file. And so what that will do is I'll take all of my slides here. So I have 5 different kind of slides within this Jamboard. When I say download as a PDF, it's going to save all 5 pages. You can save a frame as an image. That will just save the current frame that you're looking at as an image file. So if I was to click that, it's actually going to go ahead and it's going to, so it actually names it number 4 because this is my kind of slide 4 of 5. And it's a ping image. So it's an image that you can add into any, presentation that you're creating, or you can add it to Schoology or any of your courses. In addition, under this menu, you can also make a copy of your entire Jam. Sometimes you might want to do that if you've created something in advance for students to use, and you want to just keep a clean copy before they start marking it up. Sometimes it's a good idea to just make a copy before the students start editing on it. So then you'll have just, your clean, unused Jam that you can assign to any of your classes. And of course, if I'm in Jamboard and I want to, ditch the Jam I'm on and I just want to open up a new one and start a new one, I can do that by just clicking this button right here. So there's tons and tons of ways that you can use Jamboard. In the same folder that this presentation is in, there's also a link to a file that gives you 20 different ways that you can look at Google Jamboard. And I'll just pull that up for you so you can just get an idea. But these are kind of just give you ideas, but they have templates here that you can download and use and kind of edit and make your own as well. If you're interested in using Google Jamboard and you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I welcome any questions, and I encourage you to check out Jamboard and give it a try.